So for those of you who are new, I do my best to weave together things that really apply to advanced students and people, things that apply to beginning students and things that apply to all of our ordinary lives. So it's part of the interesting texture of these kind of talks. And I always begin with refuge. So I take refuge in the Buddha, the one bright mind, in the Dharma, the teachings of the truth, and in the Sangha, those who aspire to compassion and wisdom. And we're continuing on the Mumonkan. This is case number 11, Jōshû's hermits. And here's the case from the Shibayama Roshi translation. He titles this, Jōshû sees the true nature of two hermits. Jōshû came to a hermit and asked, "Are you in? Are you in?" The hermit held up his fist. "The water is too shallow to anchor a vessel," said Jōshû, and went away. He then came to another hermit and called out, "Are you in? Are you in?" This hermit also held up his fist. "You are free to either give or take away. You are free to either give or take away, either to kill or to give life," said Jōshû, bowing to him. So that's the whole koan, that little story. Mumon's commentary, well, I'll hit that in a few minutes. So koans, for those of you who are new, are, if we took Harry Potter and we distilled the 7 volumes of Harry Potter down into one case, you know, little Harry goes up to Dumbledore and says, "Who am I?" And Dumbledore waves his wand and says, "Grow up." And then there's a mature Harry Potter with children. Well, that waving, you know, includes a whole lot of things that go on in there. So a koan is sort of like that. It sort of condenses a story into a very, very succinct bit of dialogue. And that dialogue can be opened up and unfolded in lots of different ways. So this is Jōshû Chao Cho and something like that in Chinese. And he was a 9th century teacher, very famous, very wise. He's well known for being extremely articulate, extremely good with words. So here's the situation, you know. Jōshû, this great master, he goes before these 2 monks and he says, you know, "Hi there, anybody there?" And a monk raises his fist. And he goes to another monk, or perhaps he comes to the same monk at a different time and says, "Same thing. Anybody in?" Same answer. And one person he praises. He says, "Oh, you are great." And another person, he sort of says, "You're wasting your time." So the koan is about what's really going on here. I mean, if that's all there was, then it wouldn't be wouldn't have come down for the last 1,000 years. So to work on koans, we have to move into a place of non-duality. So this koan is about us. This koan is about our life. Our life has to express the same Dharma point the koan is pointing at. So we have to not only enter the koan from perspective of the teacher, Jōshû, but also enter the koan from the perspective of the hermit, but then they have to also enter us. So we have to really see that we are both sides of the equation, and that it is not somebody else who's holding up a fist, but it is us. So then we have to take the koan apart and see, what is it really talking about? What is it really talking about? So the first point of Zen practice, of course, is you stabilize your mind and clear your mind. Okay, and that's what we do all of our foundational teachings on. Stabilize the mind, clear the mind, be in the present moment. You know, kind of begin to get rid of some of the debris that we have cluttered ourselves up with, or begin to crack the armor that we have coated ourselves up with. Okay? But then after we have done some of that work, which is a cyclic thing, we always keep coming around to it. It's never we go beyond it. We always keep coming around to it. But after we come in a little bit further, then we begin seeing the emptiness, the spaciousness of all things, the interpenetration of all things, or we see that all things not only are interpenetrated, but all things are functioning as one. And these are all other kinds of experiences. So with the Zen tradition, our aspiration, and with the koans, is that we not only have a direct, vivid experience of fundamental truth, but that fundamental truth can be expressed in our ordinary life, in our ordinary world. Because if it's only something that is, held in the Zendo, we can encounter something when we're meditating for 7 days or 10 days like we just finished, and then the minute we walk back out and hear the ice cream truck, we blow it. It's not much good. So looking back at this koan again, these hermits are wise people. Apparently, in the original, it's about somebody who's kind of completed their training, they're living in some kind of solitary retreat, or they're maybe one hermit that's seen twice. It's a little bit unclear in some ways. And so the implication from the language, which I had to, you can't get that without the background information, is these are wise people who've done a lot of training. So Jõshû is coming, and he's saying really wonderful things to one, and he's saying very derogatory things to the other. And why would somebody ask the same question over and over? What do we call somebody in our culture who keeps asking the same question over and over? We often wish they would stop. A teacher. So it may be that this koan has something to do with Jōshû's as a bodhisattva, as a very wise person. He's not just arbitrarily saying things, but there's actually a real teaching purpose to it. And Jōshû was the quintessential student. He practiced for 80 years, so it's said. And then at age 80, he started going around China visiting other temples and kind of seeing his understanding, what that was like. And then at age 100, he settled down and started teaching. At least that's the tradition. In China, the older you are, the more venerable you are. So here's a venerable teacher, and so in order to show the venerableness of the teacher, they give him a nice, round, big age. But it's one of his quotes, though, is if even as someone is a child of 7, if I can learn from them, I will do so. Even if someone is an old, wise person, a sage, if I could teach them, I will. So this kind of attitude of being a total student makes the best teacher. They come together. I have this wonderful thing. It's a iPad Pro, and it's very nice. It's got, you can write on it and take notes, and so apparently several weeks ago I kind of outlined the talk, and I forgot I had done that. And so then I went today and I outlined a whole different talk, and somehow the talk I outlined was completely gone. It's kind of interesting. So here we go. We got this situation. We have this guy coming, asking the same questions, getting the same answers, giving different responses. So we have to say, what does this have to do with me? What does this have to do with my life? And one of the ways we can look at that is Jōshû is just like our life. Our life is always challenging us, always testing us, always saying, are you with it? 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 Can you respond? Can you respond? Can you stay calm? Can you stay calm? Our life is always just asking us over and over again about our capability. And so in a way, this is the part of the point of this koan is, how can we find the stability, the equanimity, the balance to actually meet the exigencies of our life, to meet the challenges of our life? If all of the meditation that we're doing here, all the zazen we're doing here, doesn't translate into the ability to meet the inevitable difficulties, vicissitudes of our life, what good is it? So, in a way, that's part of what this koan is pointing to. He's testing people, he's testing people, he's testing people, asking the same question, just like life keeps asking us. Do you have integrity? Do you have integrity? Do you have integrity? Are you present? Are you present? Are you present? Constantly. Everything is a test. And it's interesting if we look at, we change our view of our life from, I got to get ahead and we're going to fail miserably, to everything is a test of my capacity to love. Everything is a test of my capacity for wisdom. And so if we go through our daily life, thinking everything I meet is a test of my capacity to love, that changes how we view our life. If we go through our life thinking every challenge that comes towards me, every awkward situation, every failure and difficult thing is a test to see, can I maintain stability, clarity of mind, and can I meet that? And who's grading the test? The only person it matters to is us. The universe doesn't care what score we get on that. But the universe is constantly giving us these challenges, and the feedback from the challenge we get to assess. It's just a simple, yeah, really screwed that one up, or yeah, that one's, I held it pretty well there. And it's not a grade, it's not a competitive grade, but it's a metacognitive feedback that we can assess about, is my practice really genuine or not? So, genuine practice, we should be able to look and say, okay, I had really, really, really hard times, and I've been practicing loving kindness, I've been practicing being present, I've been practicing these things, and, I'm making some progress. It's not a mystery, in a way. There are mysterious parts of practice, of course, but we really should be able to say, okay, my goal is stability of mind, openness of heart. So the other part of this particular koan has to do with teacher and student. Has to do with, here's this person teaching. He's an eminent, world-renowned Zen teacher. He goes to visit these people, and he's not just going for a casual social visit. He actually is going for a purpose. There's a koan, or maybe it's just a little short story, where Jõshû, the same teacher, goes into somebody's zendo, like a room like this, and he's carrying his walking staff, and he kind of tromps in and carries his walking staff, and the teacher is sitting there and says, "What are you doing here with that staff?" And Jõshû says, "I'm here to test the depths of the water." And the teacher, who's resident, says, "There's no water here, what are you going to test?" And Jõshû kind of tromps out again. Everything is a test in a way, and that particular kind of test, what's it testing for? It's part of what these koans are about. So we look at a koan, and we have to see the emptiness of things. Otherwise it makes no sense. We have to see the oneness of things. Otherwise it makes no sense. We have to see how the marvelous perfection of things arising out of nowhere functions, or we don't really understand the koan. So all those are part of the essence of this particular koan. So this koan is also about teaching. And the Buddha has some specific things. He says teachers should teach step by step, which I often fail at. He says you should teach sequentially about cause and effect. Everything has a cause, everything has an effect. You should always teach with compassion. You should not teach for any material reward. And you should teach without disparaging yourself or anybody else or any other teaching. So when we find ourselves, any of us find his or herself in a teaching seat, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a little room like this with a small crowd. It might be at work somewhere, it might be with your family, it might be, all kinds of places we find people are teaching things. And what are we doing? We're instructing, we're helping to kind of clarify things, helping to guide things. Hopefully we're modeling things. But one of the interesting parts of all education for us is, do I pass the test? The tests are for us. Even in college, the tests are for us. You know, it's not that there's some great, that the teacher decided, oh, I'd like to start grading tests, and I'd like to set up some tests so I feel good. The tests are always for us. So, a worthwhile question to ask is, am I being taught meaningful things? Am I being taught meaningful things? Are they meaningful? You know, you can ask it whether you're in school or whether you're, you know, in a training seminar or whether you're here at a Dharma Center or any place. Am I being taught meaningful things? Have I asked to be taught meaningful things? Have I inquired? And then, of course, have I actually endeavored to learn? Because a lot of people are really great at questions, and a lot of people go to lots of institutions, but there's a certain kind of, you know, have I really learned? Am I really trying to learn? So what happens, I find, in Dharma centers is we are teaching all the time. You know, we did the 10-day session, and I saw 50 people every day almost. And then we did, you know, all the stuff we do on Sundays, and then stuff during the week, and we have 30 people at the monastery. And there's teaching going on all the time. And some people really take it in and say, how does this apply to me? How can I work with this? And some people think, oh, that's great, and it just goes right out the other side. And some people, it doesn't even come in. That's a different issue, of course. So have I practiced what I've learned? Because this is all about practice. It's never about, okay, you know, somebody understands this and gives an interesting talk. It's all about, can I embody? Can I use my own resources to meet the exigencies of my life, and can I use my own resources to find out what kind of level of resources I have? Can I use my own resources to look at the consciousness of this being? And then to practice. How does it function? How does it function? So everybody here has some kind of meditation practice, or you wouldn't be in this room. And I don't know, you know, I assume that counting and being present in the body is the foundational practice for all of us, certainly is for me. Well, we're out driving, can we be present? We're out walking through Macy's department store, and does our eye get caught by everything there, or are we able to hold our center and to really feel our breath so that the eyes just don't get taken by what they see, so that we have some center? Or we are surrounded by people who are just trying to grab our attention. We're surrounded by people who are just trying to induce us, seduce us, you know, get us in some way. So part of practice, we learn to count our breath, learn to stay in our body, learn to stay present. And all these temptations say, come buy this, come get that, oh, this is really good. And we learn to have some stability of mind, some stability of awareness as we walk through this kind of grabby world. When we have some stability of mind and stability of presence, our tendency to grab and say, I am not filled, I'm inadequate, I'm weak, I need something to fill the holes in me, is much less. And if we practice deeply enough, we see that fundamentally there are no holes. Fundamentally, we are not broken in any way. So, we're all being tested. All being tested. One of the best one of the points of this koan, of course, is nothing is good or bad. Nothing is always good or bad. Nothing is completely good or bad. Everything is textured. Everything has got many different sides to it. So when we fail miserably, can we learn from it? We all have had that delicious experience, catches our attention, catches our heart. Can we learn from it? And I hope we all have had positive experiences that if we don't learn from them, then they just go to our head and we think it has something to do with me, I'm great, I'm special. So part of this particular koan is, well, what if somebody come and castigates you? What if somebody comes and offers an ecumen to your noble bearing? How do you respond inside? To be indifferent, when somebody gives you a compliment, to sort of say, well, who cares? Isn't very helpful. On the other hand, to start preening yourself, think, oh, well, I'm glad you finally recognize how great I am. That's not so helpful either. So, we as a culture have an enormous amount of trouble learning from failure. People take failure as, they take criticism, they take it personally, they feel it has something to do with them, whoever that is. And most of our psychological models, our growing models, have to do with, get positive feedback in safe environments. But when we change our view and say, I can learn from anything. I can learn from anything. Then suddenly, failure you learn from, and you actually learn a lot more from. Success you learn from, and there's some delicious rewards of learning from success. Confusion you can learn from. Despair you can learn from. Darkness you can learn from. Broken legs you can learn from. You can learn from everything. And there's another wonderful koan. The line in it is, every day is a good day. Well, if you think every day is a day I get $1 million, every day is a day I am happy and satisfied, you're going to be doomed to failure. But let's say you changed your view to say, every day is a day I can learn something. What am I going to learn today? We wake up in the morning, think, what am I going to learn today? Oh, hard day, learn something. Easy day, learn something. Down, learn something. And suddenly, our life goes from a series of wrecks, or a series of grasping and growing, into every day is interesting. And that's because of a change of our mind. It's not because of a change of circumstances. It's not because somehow, we got the right job. And suddenly we got the right job, and we got the right job, we got the right people to work with, we got the right amount of money, and suddenly all of those conditions are now in our favor, temporarily. Even that you can learn from. So, what are these hermits learning? Same response. One person says, you're a terrible person, way too shallow, your spiritual practice is worthless. Another person says, oh, you are so great, deep ship could anchor here, you're profound and you're wise. And this is not a fist of defiance. In a way, we could say it's a fist of isness. That whether someone likes us or doesn't like us, praises or blames us, there is a basic awareness of here I sit, here I stand. And that basic truth is unaffected. It's unaffected. I had a dream a little while ago. I think I was on the bank of a river and I was talking to some wise person, and I headed to the river and I had a backpack, and I took the backpack, set it down on the shore, walked to the river, and I came back and the backpack was completely gone. And that's all I had, all of my possessions, everything I owned was there. And in the dream I said, oh, but I still have this. And that we all have, that awareness that we all have at all times in all places, is not dependent upon praise or blame or stuff. Jõshû was coming up and he says, what have you learned? What kind of answer do you give as a genuine answer? So you might even think, what kind of things are praises and blames? So here's Jõshû praising this person, but it could be he's just saying, does this person have enough depth and enough stability that I can say nasty things to him and he's not even affected? He just sort of goes right through them. Or is this person, so shallow that I can say great things to him and suddenly he starts puffing himself up and think, well, maybe I am really special. So as we look at these koans and we begin to looking at our life and reflecting on them, they become very alive, they become very vivid. They become not just some silly story that somebody wrote up to confuse people. There is a phrase in, usually it's in the Vajrayana school, that says the path is the fruit. That if we are walking through our life with curiosity, what can I learn? That curiosity and that attitude is already a beneficent gift. And it's not something, it's something that will enliven our life. Jõshû in this koan, Mumon in this koan, Mumon is the author of the Mumonkan, has a little poem. And in the poem it says, his eye is a shooting star, his spirit is lightning, a sword to kill, a sword to give life. His eye is a shooting star, his spirit is lightning, a sword to kill, a sword to give life. If we look at our capacity for giving life and for killing things, with our mind, with our intention, we can make dead trees alive and vivid and interesting and full of texture and character. And we can make people flat and zombie-like and dead. So this koan is also about, well, perhaps Jõshû is really giving life to something. Or perhaps he's taking it away. So we all have that capacity. So our aspiration, my aspiration, is that as I stabilize my mind, as I open myself up to the deeper levels of truth which are always present, as I learn to function from that, as I offer the Dharma, that out of that offering, there is life. Out of that offering, there is something that comes into being. Perhaps inspiration for all of you to say, oh, there's something really interesting in my life. I can discover it myself. That how we present things, how we address things, how we interact with things can kill them or can wake them up. So we can learn from anything, we can give life to anything. So may you all give life to your life and everyone you meet. Thank you.